So where to start? I went to Maryland for about a week to see my family, and then also to see my brother's graduation from his Coast Guard training. Congrats to him. Yeah. We already had a few people that had Coast Guard history in our family, but now I guess it's officially like a thing. There's like just several generations of it. I think he did it for the benefits. Don't tell them that though. So my brother was the one graduated, but I have a second brother who flew over there with my dad. And they were able to fly over a few days earlier than I did because I had a work schedule thing, and I was going to be like later than them by 3 days. So by the time I flew in, I was flying in solo, and I had never done the whole process solo before. And it was pretty interesting because when you're just doing your own thing, there's a lot less like stressors to worry about is what I learned. Unless you are as stupid as I am, because I had to catch a bus to get to the airport. About 5 minutes before the bus arrives, I'm out waiting, and I realize I don't have cash on me because I don't carry cash. And so I frantically have to look up where an ATM is. I find my way to an ATM, it's out of order. I find the second closest ATM, it's about, I don't even know how far, but like several blocks the other direction of the one I just walked to. So I have to sprint to that one. I have to get my money out, and I'm running back. Halfway back to the bus stop, I realize I left my bag outside the ATM. So I have to run back and grab it, and I'm running back, and I see the bus pull up, and I'm going... And I like have to run across like 2 pedestrian red lights to get there. And I'm talking to the guy, I'm like... money, and I just shut. I think I gave him like 5 times the amount of money that he needed, just because I didn't know. I wasn't thinking. I just wanted to give him shit so I could sit down on the bus, and he just looked over at me like this wasn't his first rodeo. He just goes, no reaction. I'm not kidding. He didn't give a fuck what I was doing. He was probably a second from closing the door on my scalp. I don't think he cared if I made it on the bus or not. But it was the bus I was looking for. I remember because I made sure to keep track of the number and the street name. Was this Maryland? No. This was about 5 minutes outside my house trying to catch a bus to the airport. I didn't want to drive there because I have to put my car into the long time parking, and I didn't want to pay the fee. So I was like, I'll get the bus there and I'll figure it out later. So anyway, I'm on this bus, and about 5 minutes into the bus ride, I'm looking at the phone, and I'm realizing, because I have the route open, and it has like a smart timer on it to show you how close you are to your next stop. And I'm like, I'm getting farther away from this stop, aren't I? Better give it like 5 more minutes to figure it out, just to be safe, you know. Maybe it's taking a loop. I don't know. So I'm like, I'm about 5 minutes farther away now. So eventually, I call my dad, and I'm like, hey, why'd I catch the bus and it's taking me farther away? And he's like, did you catch the bus on your side of the street or the other side of the street? And I think, well, I had to run 2 pedestrian red lights, so I had to cross this side, and then, so I'm like, it was the other side. And he's like, yeah, that's the one that's taking you away from your stop. And I say, why is it doing that? And he says, because it was on the other side, it's going the other direction. You catch the one going the direction you're on. And I say, well, it was the right number. It was the right number in the street. And he says, yeah, they do that, man. They just go both directions. Oh, I go, oh. So I hop off the bus on some fucking random street, now about 10 minutes farther away from my from the airport. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck, do I wait for the next bus to come? And for a while, I do that. Before I realized I got off the bus on the side of the street it was taking me. So for a brief period of time, I was waiting for the bus going the same direction. And if it came in that time period, I would have just hopped on it and continued going. So I realized, I'm just fucking stupid. I'm not figuring this out. I'm gonna call a taxi. So I call a taxi, and I say, hey, I'm on the corner of blank and blank. I'll come up with a fake name. I'm in the corner of Thompson and Henry. I couldn't think of street names, so those are just human names. I'm on the corner of Thompson and Henry. Come and grab me. I need to get to the airport. They're like, alright, I'll be there soon. About 10 minutes pass, and he says he was like a few blocks from me. And I got a call back. He's like, hey, I can't find you. Are you in the corner of Thompson and Jacobson? I go, no. That's not what I said. He goes, okay, where are you? I said, I'm at the corner of Thompson and Henry. Okay, I can be there in 6 minutes. 10 more minutes pass! And he says, alright, I'm at Thompson. What's the other street? 82nd. Dude! I'm at Thompson and Henry. How far? I gave you the corner I'm on. It's like, it can't even, it's 2 streets. There's only one area where the streets intersect there. Just be here. And he's like, how quick can you get here? It's like 6 minutes. I'm like, okay. Finally, the guy shows up. And he's like, I don't know what happened, man. I got all turned around. Anyway, I'll get you to the airport. I don't know if you guys know, taxi fares rack up pretty quick. So it was about like 20 minutes away, which, keep in mind, it would have been about 10 minutes closer had I not caught the wrong bus. But anyway, I eventually get there. It's about $40. And I'm like, okay, fuck it. Who cares, man? Here's your 40 bucks. And I'm at the airport. I got there. Everything was okay. I don't know how I got on such a wild goose chase before even getting to the airport, but I'm there and I'm chilling and things are cool, okay? And keep in mind, I was stressing. The only reason I was so worried, I was like, worried about catching the wrong bus and blah, 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 because I was like, oh, I'm gonna miss my flight. I get to the airport, I have an hour and a half before my flight takes off. What the fuck was I doing, dude? I could have just waited and caught the next bus. It would have cost me $35 less. I think it's because my dad has this thing where he wants to be at the airport 2 hours before the flight takes off. Which makes sense if you're my dad and you're 2 hours late to everything. But to me, I get to the airport and I'm like, okay, what the fuck do I guess I'll eat some burgers. I'm a little hungry, I'll eat a burger. That'll leave me with an hour left. So I'm just hanging out. So I catch that flight. And I was just so tired, maybe from running around, and it was also very hot. I think there was like a heat wave running through Portland that day. But I get on the flight and I'm so tired, I just put my jacket against the wall and I fucking conk out. And it was like a pretty short flight. It was a flight from Portland to Phoenix. And that was the shorter end of the flight. The next flight was Phoenix to Baltimore. And that was like 4 hours. I was actually the only person seated in the front row. You know how there's like 3 seats on one side and 3 on the other, and then there's the aisle in the middle? I was the only person in the entire front row somehow. And I was just on the window seat so I could just sleep against the side of the plane. And I was like, I'm fucking smooth cruising. I'm chilling. I don't have to worry about anybody giving me weird looks. I could just slack jaw on the side of... Like, I don't... Nothing matters to me anymore. I'm living like a king. And then I wake up after like an hour, and I look to my left, and there's like 4 people. Where did you come from? and I thought I was sitting next to just the most seasoned flyers of all time, like veterans of the plane. Like they were just like, oh yeah, that happened to me when I touched down in Paris too last week. Yeah, but then, you know, down in Morocco, I was like, what the fuck? What happened? What are you talking? Huh? I don't know if people just like approached the plane and said like, hey, we have extra flight miles, get us on the flight. Like after I fell asleep, I don't know what happened. And then eventually I realized, oh, it's the flight attendants because it's right at the front of the plane and there's open seats. They just sat down and it's the flight attendants just talking to each other. That's all it was. But I was like, who are these people? And eventually I realized, well, oh, chill, okay. But anyway, more or less, it's a pretty uneventful flight. And I get off. And the layover in Phoenix is 7 hours. So I land, and actually, right as I landed, I actually got on a Discord call with the fellas in Cabbage. Like, Toucan, you in the chat, you can vouch for this one. That's my day one, my road dog. We were just shooting the shit for like an hour. I was just walking around the airport. These guys can attest to it. It was a ghost town, dude. I have never seen an airport this empty. The entire terminal with all the gates. Like, I could see a mile in front of me. There was not a single human. I couldn't believe my eyes. Since there's nobody there, I'm just, you know, I'm just talking to the guys, like, full volume. I don't have my headphones in, because it's just, like, what am I worried about, right? But eventually, I'm like, alright, I'll just go to the bathroom, and then I'll just eventually, I'll wrap up, I'll grab something to eat, and then I'll sleep, like, on a couch, maybe, like, down in my gate area before my flight gets here, right? So I go to the bathroom, and again, I'm, like, the only person in this entire airport. And the moment I go into the bathroom, I get up to the urinal, I unzip, and I'm like, ah. And all of a sudden, I just hear this. a man who I can only assume spawned behind me, like I'm playing a Kevin Gates survival horror game. Playing the loudest speaker of all time, bumping 2 phones by Kevin Gates. This man wasn't in the airport until I walked into that bathroom. It actually briefly scared me because I was like, where'd this guy come from? But anyway, eventually I get out of there as fast as I can. I get back to my gate. Overall, we're still chilling. And it's now like 1 a.m. and the flight leaves at 7. So it will start boarding at about probably 6:15. So I have 6 hours to sleep. No, I think I had that wrong. It boards at 7. I was an hour early. So I want to wake up at 7, essentially. My dad, who booked my flight, knows exactly what the flight times are. And so he wanted to be nice and help me. So he wanted to call me at 7, just to make sure I wake up and I don't miss my flight, because that would be very unfortunate. You know, I have to rebook. I'll be like a few days later after I'm already 3 days late compared to those guys, you know? I love to go down and see the family. So we just wanted to be safe, you know? And at 4 a.m., after sleeping for probably only about 2.5 hours, I awake to buzzing on my phone, and I'm like, ugh. You know that feeling when you, like, wake up, but you're not really awake yet? Like your eyes are open, and you're now witnessing the world around you, but you're very much not conscious, you know? That's the state I was in, and I just see a call on my phone going like, beep, 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 and then it ends, and I'm like, oh. Hello? Hi, I call him back, and it's my dad, and he goes, hey, my fault, man, I just realized, I wanted to call you at 7, but we're already on the East Coast, so it's 4 for you. Sorry, man. I'm like, yeah, you're good, man. And he hangs up, and I can't go back to sleep. So I'm now off of the worst sleep of my life in an airport, barely conscious, walking around, just thinking like, I guess I need some breakfast now. So I find a Shake Shack, and I eat a breakfast burger, and it was actually kind of fire. I think it kind of put some juices back into my system. But then I just have to kind of chill for a while until my flight gets there, and I'm just like, ugh. I'm like so groggy, dude. I've never been that groggy, and I'm in an airport. Things were going fine until then, and then I'm just like, man, this is the worst experience I could have right now. So eventually the flight comes, I get on, and I sleep, and I get about 4 hours, just about as long as the flight was. We're back to things being pretty peachy, okay? We're kind of smooth cruising again. It went from it's so over to we are so back. And it kind of will just continue kind of ovulating like this. But right now, we're back. So I'm in Baltimore now. And my dad comes by to pick me up from the airport. And then bring me back to the Airbnb they're staying at. And I'm officially now, like, I'm with the team, right? I'm now with my brother and my dad. And we're, like, going to see our grandpa later. I'm now, like, we're now into the family portion of the trip. Which I don't have too many stories about. It's more or less like, you know, I just saw family a few times. It was cool. I saw my grandpa. That was fun. Saw my aunts, my uncles, you know. It was fun. It was nice. That was the majority of the main part of the trip, was that. I will say, though, it was funny. My grandpa... my grandpa actually has a reputation. He's called Dancing Jack. He would essentially be allowed into bars, and he wouldn't have to pay or anything, because he was such a bubbly personality that he would just attract new customers on his own. That was like his whole thing. Like, this man is essentially a folk legend because of just how much every single human that came into contact with him liked him. And that's what I fucking love that about him. It's so... My grandpa is so sick, dude. I love that guy. But essentially, that is all to say that he's a very happy fella. He's very bubbly. And so, when one day I go down to my grandpa's house, where my aunt and her son are hanging out, my cousin, and he is in the backyard, my cousin is, attempting to fix a lawnmower by slamming it with a hammer and then, hitting it with a blowtorch, and my grandpa walks out of his house. I have never seen this man with this expression. He goes from... I've never seen that man not smiling until he walks into his backyard and sees that boy with a blowtorch fucking borderline melting a lawnmower. And we are like hiding behind a fence just watching it all play out. Like, is it working? He's like, yeah, I gotta loosen it up. He just saw that and went, and then just walked right back into the house. We're like, awesome, all right. Jack approves. My brother graduated from the Coast Guard advanced training. We go down, we see him, we go, yay, yay, woohoo, yay. And then that was kind of more or less over with. We hang out with him for a day. And then the next day we fly home. Except this time I'm not solo, because I'm with my one brother, the one that didn't graduate, and my dad. So this time we're flying into 3. And so we thought more or less once we get onto these last few flights, it's like nothing bad is going to happen, right? Because how can that happen? When you're a loud East Coast family, you think after you're on the plane, everything's going to be smooth cruising. But somehow, I could not begin to imagine how loud things were about to get. It is all thanks to one single man by the name of Gino. Gino is a fan of the DC football team. He made this very known because he started yelling about it the moment he got onto the plane. Unfortunate for us, he probably would have stopped yelling about it once everyone showed a disinterest in him doing that, if not for the fact that he sat directly next to someone else that was also a fan of the team and was flying into Denver to watch one of their games. So, all of a sudden, he has a new best friend that he can yell to about his favorite thing, his favorite players, all the things they're doing right, they're doing wrong. Just the entire flight. The 3.5 hour flight. I'd never seen anything like it. I was like, is this just how things happen over here? Or is this guy just a fucking phenomenon? Is this an anomaly? It goes on for over 3 hours when all of a sudden, this guy apparently got a little bit too comfortable with his new friend. Because he, after yelling about football for 3 hours, decided it was time to branch out his conversation topics. And the plane turns a little bit, and he sees a view out the window, and he goes, "Oh wow, that's incredible. You know, one thing, I don't think the Earth is round. You ask me, that thing's flat." And for the first time, the entire flight, the man did not get a response. She normally matched his energy. She was loud as fuck. She wanted to talk to him about anything. For once, she didn't have anything to say. And I thought maybe, just maybe, this guy was going to get put into his place finally, and he was going to stop. But no, he just kept talking. He said, you know, me personally, I don't know about this whole Horizon nonsense. I don't know what that's all about. I don't know, you know, man. I don't get it. He just kept talking. But eventually, he talked so fucking long, he got himself back, like, sidetracked onto football, and started talking about football again. And then she started talking, and it's like, oh, fuck, dude. Why couldn't he just keep talking about bullshit conspiracy theories? We were so close to him just go... And when the flight finally lands, they remember why they were here in the first place. And they're like, we're gonna see the game! 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 And they start chanting. Not only that, for the first time in my life, someone clapped when a plane landed. And it was just those two motherfuckers. But it may as well be the whole plane, how loud they made it, somehow. This two claps somehow sounded like someone got a standing ovation at the Cannes Festival. And they were screaming the entire time on the asphalt, waiting for them to open the door. And finally, one guy had enough behind us and goes, "Oh my god, shut the fuck up!" And it was so funny, because after he said it, you could hear murmuring. Like everyone was like, yeah, like he broke the barrier. Like someone finally said what the people were thinking. And it was like, but they were so just oblivious to every other human being, dude. As we're finally getting off the plane, again, we're in the front row. So a few people that were kind of already lined up, they get off first. But then the guys next to us, Gino and this woman, decide to get off. And they are riding high on the adrenaline of screaming for 3 hours. And so they look over at me, my brother, and my dad. And the woman, who I now see is holding a leather, metal-studded American flag bag. And I think, oh, this makes sense now. And she goes, come on, get the hell up! Come on, you're in the front row, you're here for a reason, get the hell up, get out of the plane! It's one thing to yell at your newfound best friend. You're screaming at random human beings now. I want you to die. I hope you and only you get out of the plane, and then the arm connected to the plane somehow, like, some malfunction, and it goes, and it flings you out on the asphalt. How are you a human like this? Like, this is an alien. This is an alien that hasn't learned how to be accustomed to human society. Like, I couldn't believe it, dude. Like, at a certain point, it was anger not because of the things they're doing, but because I don't know how a human like that exists. Needless to say, we get off the flight as fast as possible. And then the flight back was completely no problems. It was like yeah, 2 hours, and we were all good to go. And then I eventually get back to my house, and that was the trip, more or less. So I'm sure you can understand why I was jet lagged on the day back and didn't stream immediately. You know what I mean? I was I was a little low energy.